we can be susceptible host. But have you ever wondered why some people, they are more susceptible to develop dental caries compared to others? Pare-pareho lang naman tayo. We eat carbohydrates, we eat fermentable carbohydrates. But why is that some people, they are more susceptible to develop dental caries? Some are not. Or even in your mouth, di ba? Some of your teeth are more susceptible to develop dental caries compared to others. So in this lecture, we will be explaining what will make a host or what will make a tooth susceptible to dental caries. So to give you a preview, this is the reason. So the host, like for humans, humans have different factors that will make a person susceptible to develop dental disease. So what are those factors? The tooth structure. Because each one of us, we have different characteristics of the tooth structure. So this will be one of the factors relating to the formation of dental caries. And then our saliva also. So saliva will provide an environment that would either be conducive or protective to dental caries. And then medyo bago to, our immune response and even genetics, one of the host behavior and attributes that will be related to dental caries. Now we recognize the role of genetics as well as immune response in the development of dental caries. And also, kaya nga 'di ba in dentistry, one of the reasons why we get the social history of a person is because the social history will tell us about the host behavior, the attributes, as well as the nutrition. Because each of this will be one of the factors related to the formation of dental caries. So we will have in-depth discussion of the following. So we will now start with tooth morphology. Like what I told you, not all of your teeth in the oral cavity will have the same susceptibility to dental caries. Some of your teeth will be more prone to develop dental caries compared to others. So what will make a tooth susceptible to dental caries? One is based on the morphologic and structural characteristic of the teeth. Okay, there will be predisposing factors for the teeth. Those teeth with aberrant anatomic and morphologic configurations will be more susceptible to dental caries. Example, the presence of deep pits and fissure. Because what's the role of this deep and narrow pits and fissure? They provide good shelter for the bacteria. So when carcinogenic bacteria will be present on the pits and fissure, the pit and fissure will provide a good shelter for them so that they would stay longer. And in the presence of fermentable carbohydrates in the diet, they will be fed. And then later on, they will produce the acid that will cause the demineralization. Now, the role of the pits and fissure, there's no single means for us to clean this. Even dentists, even me, I don't know how to clean pits and fissure. There's no available means to effectively clean the pits and fissure. Because even the smallest instrument that we have, yung explorer, it might not be able to penetrate the pits and fissure to be able to clean it. So much more the bristles of the toothbrush. Kaya, some children, when they go to the clinic, presenting with pit and fissure caries, some parents would tell us, Dok, hindi kasi marunong mag-toothbrush. Or, Dok, nagbabrush naman, but why is that it still developed dental caries? The reason is because there's no single available means to effectively clean the pits and fissures. And then we will preempt now. What do we do? In cases wherein you see there's pits and fissure, so you need to protect the pits and fissure. How? Number one is you can place, what is that material that you place to mechanically act as a barrier? Something that you place on top of the pits and fissure. Your goal is to let,
Sealant.
very good, yes, the pit and fissure sealant. So application of pit and fissure sealant, that is one available protective means because your goal is you want the sealant to penetrate the pits and fissure. Therefore, acting like a barrier so that microorganisms in the oral cavity cannot inhabit it. But some are concerned. Sabi nila, pit and fissure sealant, let's say for example, during tooth eruption, because of the cryogenic diet of a person, di ba we talk about the plaque before? So we said that if the child's diet or if your diet is composed primarily of fermentable carbohydrates, the type of microorganism that will be present in your oral cavity will be cardiogenic bacteria. So imagine this, if this tooth is still erupting and there is pit and fissure, isn't it, if the diet is mainly made up of fermentable carbohydrates, there is the tendency that microorganisms may have started to inhabit the pit and fissure. Baka the microorganisms have already entered the pits and fissure. So what's going to happen now if you place pit and fissure? If microorganisms have already penetrated the pits and fissure. Good thing is, based on research, based on research, any microorganisms that are present in the pits and fissure, they are not viable anymore once you place the pit and fissure. Meaning, they will never survive anymore. It's because when you place the pits and fissure, those microorganisms cannot survive anymore because they will be deprived of oxygen, they will be deprived of nutrients rather. They will be deprived of nutrients that they need to survive. Okay, do you understand? So there's no problem if you seal the cardiogenic bacteria because again, the cardiogenic bacteria will never survive if you seal them properly. Same is true with the restoration. Ito, there was one board exam question before that asked about this. Sabi ng board exam question is, what's going to happen if you seal dental caries? Let's say, for example, you place dental caries and then you left some portions of caries underneath the restoration. So the answer is, the caries will become arrested. Because when you place the restoration and you seal the bacteria will be deprived of nutrients. So therefore, they will never survive and the carious lesion will become arrested. Okay? Or any moment that you have question, you can ask. Okay, now, so are we all good with the pits and fissure? Do you now understand? Kaya, di ba, have you observed in your patient, the most common dental caries that you can find on a person is pit and fissure caries. Okay? And by the way, pa-preempt ko na din, aside from doing pit and fissure sealing, you can also do enameloplasty. Okay, if you don't want to use the sealant, you can do enameloplasty. When you say enameloplasty, you will be shaping the tooth. You'll be altering the shape of the tooth. So, in the pits and fissure, enameloplasty, it is done by using the smallest burr that you have, either fissurotomy burr or what's the smallest carbide round burr that you know? What's that? O, sa finals pa lang kasi natin yun eh. What's the smallest carbide that you know? It's round. 1.
1/16 po.
Actually, the smallest is 1/4. It's kind of small naman. So, when you use the round 1/4 carbide burr, when you run it on the pit and fissure, the pit and fissure will become broader. It will become cleansable. So, after enameloplasty, you don't need to put sealant. Enameloplasty means you're just altering the surface of the tooth, you're cutting it this way so that the area will become wider, saucer shape, and it's cleansable. So the dentist, after you do enameloplasty, you just apply fluoride. Okay? So those are the viable means in order for you to deal with the pits and fissure. Okay, another morphologic or structural characteristic of the tooth that will serve as predisposing factor will be the presence of disturbances during tooth formation. So there will be some conditions, no? Conditions that can arise during the development of the teeth that will make the tooth more susceptible to develop dental caries. So it will be hypoplasia or hypocalcification. Okay, by definition, when you say hypoplasia, this is the condition that results to the problem with the quantity of enamel. So when we say enamel hypoplasia, this is the condition that happens during enamel matrix formation. So this problem, it arises during apposition stage of tooth development. So, diba, during apposition stage, this is the stage when enamel matrix is forming as well as the dentine matrix. So, if ameloblast will encounter any disturbances during apposition stage, halimbawa, too much fluoride, excessive amount of fluoride, or syphilis, okay, or high fever during apposition stage, it can result to hypoplasia. Okay, so how do we characterize the tooth with hypoplasia? So these are examples of teeth with hypoplasia. What do you notice? Affected is the quantity of enamel, wherein there will be some areas of the enamel that would appear thin, discolored. Okay, yan. So affected with hypoplasia is the thickness of the enamel. Now, what will make it susceptible to develop dental caries? Because very thin is the enamel. So during demineralization, that thin enamel can easily become demineralized. Okay. Yan. So another kind of disturbance that will make a tooth more susceptible to develop dental caries is hypomineralization, which is also called hypocalcification. So after apposition stage, diba, after the formation of enamel and dentine matrix, the next stage in the tooth development is mineralization stage. So, or calcification stage. So this time, if the tooth will encounter any disturbance during mineralization of enamel or dentine after apposition, the condition that will result is called hypocalcification or hypomineralization. So during this time, because apposition stage is completed, so normal is the thickness. The problem is the quality of enamel and dentine. Quality. Okay, so when there is enamel hypomineralization, again, this is a defect involving the quality of the enamel. So when enamel has hypocalcification, it would look like this. It is not white spot lesion of dental caries. It's different from incipient caries. So this time, this results during congenital formation of enamel, during the development of enamel. Kasi di ba incipient caries would only occur after tooth eruption. This one kasi, the tooth will erupt with those white spots. And when you examine it, this white spot, it's much harder compared to incipient caries. Incipient caries is very soft. But even if these hypocalcified areas, they are still softer than the normal enamel. So you're gonna see the opacity or the discoloration of the enamel with hypocalcification. Now, these hypocalcified areas, expect the enamel will be much weaker compared to the normal enamel. So therefore, it can undergo post-eruptive breakdown. It can become damaged easily after eruption. And whenever there is caries formation in the presence of acid, the hypocalcified area can become demineralized easily. So both of them, hypocalcification and hypoplasia, it would result to very weak enamel. And in the presence of acid during caries formation, these plastic enamel or hypocalcified enamel, they can become easily demineralized. So these are two features or conditions that will make the teeth more susceptible to dental caries compared to the normal enamel. Okay, another view. There is a phenomenon wherein we observe hypomineralization involving the incisors, permanent incisors and permanent molars. And that is what is called MIH. Have you ever heard about the MIH? Molar incisor hypomineralization. Is this the first time that you hear about this condition? Very commonly seen in children. So this is the type of hypoplasia that is observed affecting the incisors and the molars. So it's an observation, that some children, they suffer from MIH. So this is the hypomineralization that involves the molar and the incisors. That's why it's called molar incisor hypomineralization. So you're gonna see a newly erupted incisor and molar would have those hypomineralization. And what do we do? Let's say, for example, you see the tooth has hypoplasia or severe type of hypomineralization. Being a dentist in the future, what do you do with this one? Or kayo, minsan ano, sa compre patients, I see some of this. What will be the decision of the dentist when you see something like this? Kami, if hypocalcification and hypomineralization affects great surface of the tooth, we provide grounds. So in children, if you see hypomineralization involving the molar, because there is great chance of enamel breakdown kasi. So we are proactive. We immediately explain to the parents that we need to cover this with stainless steel crowns. And then for the anterior, siguro plastic crowns or PMMA crowns for the time being. Kasi di ba, the definitive restoration like yung jacket crowns or zirconia crowns, we do it at a later stage of life. Maybe when the child turns 20 and above. But for young children, we cover this with temporary crowns. And then, if it's only like this, so we improve the oral hygiene, the diet, and we can recommend some remineralizing agents. Pwede kaya akong mag-advertise? Pwede naman siguro, no? Have you ever heard about CPP, ACP? Ayan, panay news kasi yung pinapanood, kaya CPP, NPA ang alam natin, ano. Pero meron talaga, ano ba? Oo nga, no? Meron talaga, no? CPP, ACP. CPP, ACP, that is a new kind of material. Actually, it's not that new. It's been there for like 2 or 3 decades already. So, 20 to 30 years na, di ba? Yung CPP, ACP, that's a new material that can effectively remineralize the tooth. Okay? Yon. It can effectively remineralize the tooth. CPP, ACP, that is a substance derived from milk. So unlike fluoride, pareho lang sila ng effect ng fluoride. But with the fluoride, diba, sometimes we are so careful about prescribing fluoride to children because of toxicity. With CPP, ACP, because it is derived from milk, yung manufacturers, they would claim there's no such thing as toxicity unless consumption is very, very great in amount, right? So example of that is tooth mousse. Ayun, nadinig nyo na, no? Tooth mousse. So that is one available product in the Philippines that is made up of CPP, ACP. Yung tooth mousse by GC company. Okay? So, yan, you can be proactive when you see these kinds of defects to protect against dental caries and enamel breakdown. Now, another predisposing factor that will make a tooth susceptible to dental caries is whenever there is rough tooth surface. Example, when there is existing dental caries, the existing dental caries, naturally, it is rough in nature. So if you don't restore the carious lesion, the roughness of the carious lesion, that will enable the plaque to attach more to the tooth surface. So anything that is rough kasi is plaque retentive. That's why we want everything inside the mouth, particularly the teeth, to be smooth and well polished. Again, rough tooth surface is plaque retentive. We want to eliminate anything that's rough on the teeth. Or other than that, exposed cementum. So exposed cementum, that is naturally rough also compared to enamel. So whenever exposed is the cementum, expect it will be plaque retentive. It can easily develop root surface caries. And another thing, the presence of calcular deposits. Calcular deposits, again, they are rough in surface. So, it can form dental plaque more on top of it. So, the same thing goes with orthodontic or prosthodontic appliance. Whenever there will be brackets or any orthodontic molar bands, so some areas will be rough and it will attract plaque to develop. So some tooth defects also like yung kanina hypomineralization, hypoplasia. So because of the rough tooth defects, it will also be plaque retentive. And lastly, the reason why we are telling you to polish your restoration, primarily it's because we want the restoration to be less plaque retentive. Secondary is aesthetic reason. But primarily, we want you to really polish the restoration. So to make the restoration less plaque retentive. Okay? So overall, again, just to summarize this, anything that's rough on the tooth will be plaque retentive, and the plaque can harbor cardiogenic bacteria that will make it more susceptible to dental caries. Okay, so here, what do we notice? There is crowding of the teeth, right? So because of the crowding of the teeth, there will be some tooth malposition. Or even without crowding, any tooth malposition, like malalignment of the teeth, rotation, or if the tooth is out of position, some areas of the teeth will be very difficult to clean. Like here, oh, it's very, very obvious, like these surfaces. It will be very difficult for people to clean this. So these areas, which is very difficult to clean, they will favor the plaque formation. So this will be sufficient to cause caries on those teeth that are in malposition. And then later on, as you see your patients, kaya na-observe nyo na ba to in your patients? Like, whenever they have tooth malposition, usually talaga they develop dental caries, right? Very seldom you don't see dental caries on these teeth. Generally, any tooth malposition will make a tooth more prone to develop dental caries. So that is one explanation aside from aesthetic reason, di ba? So one of the reasons why we want to correct the alignment of the teeth, we recommend orthodontic treatment is to make those teeth cleansable to prevent dental caries in the future. Okay, another one. Another predisposing factor for the development of dental caries will be if there is not enough fluoride incorporated to the tooth during development. So sad to say, in the Philippines, there's no fluoride in our drinking water. So therefore, naturally, our teeth will be more susceptible to dental caries. But you can offset that. How? By recommending the use of other fluorides. Example, fluoride in toothpaste or systemic fluorides like fluoride supplementation. Okay? Itatanong ko nga sa PEDSA. Nakalimutan ko itanong nga sa mga PEDSA, no? Mm. Kasi before, many years ago, nung mga pamangkin ko pa lang, no, yung alaalaga ko before, so mga 20 years ago, sila yung mga alaga ko, no, when we go to the pedia, no, I accompany my sister-in-law. I know during their time, fluoride is given, fluoride supplement. Have you ever heard about polybiflor? Tama ba yung spelling ko? Polybiflor, this is a multivitamin preparation that contains fluoride as an additive. So, the fluoride added to this polybiflor that will give systemic benefit to the developing teeth of children. So that when the tooth erupts into the oral cavity, the tooth will be more protected against dental caries because we discussed about the role of fluoride in the prevention of dental caries, right? So more protected to dental caries will be the teeth when it is formed in the presence of fluoride. The issue now here is I don't know if they are still giving polybiflor. So during the time that my kids are being brought to the PEDSA, parang hindi sila binigyan. Di ko rin naman naitanong na, di ko na napansin. Or maybe the pediatrician knows na dentist ako, tapos sabi siguro, kaya mo na alagaan, so huwag na natin bigyan ng polybiflor. I don't know. Okay? So, I need to clarify that issue if this is being given or recommended by pediatrician. So if it's not given, the dentist, we can prescribe systemic fluorides also. Okay, you can prescribe systemic fluoride to children. Okay, and then I think this is the last, no? Even the post-eruption age of the tooth has to be considered in the formation of dental caries because this is the story. So when newly erupted is the tooth, like in this example, these are newly erupted teeth. No? A newly erupted teeth, naturally, it is less mineralized compared to adult teeth. Why is that so? Because it would take 2 to 3 years after the eruption for these teeth to fully mineralize. So a newly erupted tooth, because it's not yet completely mineralized, less calcified, so therefore it will be more prone to demineralization. Did you get that, class? Kaya this is the reason why young children, they are more susceptible to develop dental caries, because naturally a newly erupted teeth will be more susceptible to dental caries because they are not completely mineralized. So it will take 2 to 3 years for these newly erupted teeth to become fully mineralized. And that mineralization is called post-eruption maturation. Post-eruption maturation, this is the process by which a newly erupted teeth will complete its mineralization in the oral cavity. So what will help in the post-eruptive maturation of the teeth? The presence of minerals in the saliva. So if the saliva of the child would contain minerals like calcium phosphate and fluoride ions, that will make the teeth completely mineralized. Unfortunately, pag ang diet ng isang tao, let's say for example, the child's diet is mainly fermentable carbohydrates, expect post-eruptive maturation will never happen because the concentration of minerals in the presence of cryogenic diet will be lesser. Okay, I'll say that in Tagalog. Pag ang isang bata mahilig sa matamis, expect nyo kokonti lang ang minerals sa saliva. Kaya yung post-eruptive maturation will never be complete in those cases. Okay. Now, do you have any question about the morphologic and structural characteristics of the teeth that will increase their susceptibility to dental caries? Okay, now let's talk about the common clinical sites for caries initiation. For us to understand, why is that some teeth, example, wala namang defects, there's no defect on the tooth. So some teeth will be more prone to develop dental caries compared to others. The reason behind this is because some areas of your teeth or some areas of your mouth will be self-cleansing. So let's define, what do we call the self-cleansing areas of the teeth? These are the areas of the teeth or the gingival tissues that, because of their location, because of the shape, because of the contour of the tooth, they are less likely to retain the plaque or food debris. So therefore, with the normal function, like because of the action of the saliva, because of the action of your lips, because of the action of your tongue, your buccal tissues, these areas of the teeth, they become cleansed. So example, as you masticate, as you talk, as you do different functions in the oral cavity, the action of the perioral muscles will make the teeth cleansed. So those areas are called self-cleansing areas. So what are the self-cleansing areas? One is occlusal, except the pits and fissure, because pit and fissure is never a self-cleansing area. So other than the pit and fissure, occlusal surface, as well as incisal or occlusal third, middle third, yan, they are considered to be self-cleansing area. On the proximal naman, on the proximal, any area, wait, where is that? Oh, yan. Any area occlusal to the contact area, this will be self-cleansing. So those areas that I enumerated, they are the self-cleansing areas. Okay? They are less likely to develop the dental plaque. So they don't develop dental caries easily. So, what are the non-self-cleansing areas naman? The non-self-cleansing areas will be the following. Number one is the pace, the pits and fissures. So naturally, pits and fissures, they are considered to be non-self-cleansing areas. And remember this, the highest prevalence of dental caries, it's in the pits and fissure. So the most common, oh, it's in my exam, take note of that ha. Yung mga tulog dyan, take note, it's in my exam. So the most common clinical site for the development of dental caries will be the pits and fissure. So it's normal to see class 1 caries more often compared to class 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Again, what's the reason behind this? It's because the pits and fissure will provide excellent mechanical shelter for cryogenic bacteria. Okay? Oh, second to the pits and fissure, the second most common clinical site for caries formation will be the area cervical to the contact area. This time, it's not pit and fissure, it's smooth surface of the tooth. So the second most common clinical site for caries formation will be the area gingival or cervical to the contact area. So where is that? Okay, so imagine this. And these are the two adjacent teeth. The contact area is here. So it says here, the second most common area that you develop the plaque will be the area cervical to the contact area. Okay, let me ask you, what kind of dental caries will be present here on the area cervical to the contact area? What classification of caries based on GV Black is that? Class, ito to dito. Class
5 po. Cervical po ba?
Cervical to the contact area.
4 po, Doc.
Class 2, class 3, or even class 4. Okay? Proximal, on the proximal surface of the teeth. Okay, it can be observed, very seldom you see class 3 on the contact or below the contact area, diba? Usually, the start for the proximal caries, for the proximal caries, the start of the dental caries formation will always be on the area cervical to the contact area, above the contact area, because this is not self-cleansing. So below the contact area, occlusal to the contact area, that is considered to be self-cleansing, right? So you don't develop dental caries naturally on that area. Okay? O pangatlo, third, next to the proximal area, to the contact area, will be the distal surface of the most posterior tooth. I don't know why, but I often observe this. Sino nga pa sa inyo nagko-complain na ako yung nagsusupervise nun? We're in radiograph, we see there's a large radiolucency on the radiograph on the distal surface. It's kind of big. But clinically, we are not able to easily see it. You know why? It's because the dental caries is subgingival. So it's a common observation that your last tooth, whether second or third molar, the distal surface of it, it is often neglected. Siguro during brushing, di ba, no? Ba't nga ba hindi pa pinapaabot hanggang sa distal? Okay, so the distal surface of your last or the most posterior teeth, plaque accumulation is commonly observed. So therefore, they can develop dental caries. Next to this, still, ano yan, class 2. No? Okay, next to that will be the area cervical to the heights of contour on the facial and the lingual. So if I am going to draw a tooth like this, proximal view, right? So there is a curvature, right? We talk about this when we discussed occlusion. So there is cervical curvature, both on the facial and the lingual. So anything that is cervical or gingival to that height of contour, again, this is protected area. So during mastication, this area, they become protected against the cleansing action of saliva and perioral muscle. So therefore, this is another site for the development of dental caries. O anong klase ng caries is this one? What classification of dental caries will be this? It's class 5. Okay? So that's the reason why we develop class 5. Kasi with poor oral hygiene, the area cervical to the height of contour on the facial and the lingual, yan, these are protected areas. So you need extra effort to cleanse it. Okay. Yan. Any question? So you see this? These are smooth enamel surfaces that are supposed to be not prone to develop dental caries, but because of their feature, they are plaque retentive, so therefore, they are more prone to develop dental caries. Now, lastly, root surface. Root surface is another common clinical site for caries initiation. So what's with the root surface? These are the reason why root surfaces will be prone to develop dental caries. One is because cementum is rough. Because the root surface is covered with rough cementum. So because of the roughness of the cementum, it tends to develop the plaque. It's plaque retentive. Another reason is because the root is covered by the cementum and cementum is less mineralized, the critical pH for the cementum is 6.4. So you see this, it's kind of dangerous. At a higher pH, the cementum can start to demineralize. Mataas pa yung pH, but cementum can start to develop dental caries faster compared to enamel and dentine. Another reason is, it's because root surface, the access will be very difficult. So whenever the root becomes exposed, individuals, our patients, or even us, it will be very difficult for us to access during toothbrushing and during flossing. So these are the three main reasons why root surfaces are more prone to develop dental caries. And to add more, the root surface, there is concavity on the proximal side, right? So that concavity, the normal anatomic contour that is concave on the proximal surface of the root, that is what we call the fluting. So because of the fluting, the concavity on the proximal area of the root, it will be very, very difficult to clean the area. Okay, that's why it tends to develop dental caries more. Okay, so what is the important factor that must be present for the root caries to develop? Tanong ko lang, did you observe root caries on young people? Have you observed root caries in pedo patients or in adolescents? Diba? So, in children and adolescents, root caries is the least type of caries that would predominate their dentition. Why is that so? Because for root caries to occur, there must be gingival recession must precede caries formation. Remember, when you're still young or when you don't have any periodontal disease is not common in children eh. So when you're still young, the periodontium, particularly the gingiva, will cover the root surface. So it's kind of protected against demineralization. But when there is gingival recession, when the gingival tissues will migrate apically, that's gingival recession, no? Gingival recession will cause root exposure. And when the root becomes exposed into the oral cavity, due to the following reasons, the root surface can start to develop root caries. So very important for the development of root caries is gingival recession. That is often observed among elderly. Older people, they are more susceptible to develop root caries. It's because of the gingival recession that is accompanying aging process. And for us dentists, caries on the root is very alarming compared to caries in the enamel. Now, why is it very alarming to see root caries? Na-alarma ba kayo when you see root caries in your patient? Uy, excited sila kasi class 5. Di ba, ang hirap hanapin ng class 5, no? But you know what? From the perspective of the dentist, root caries is kind of alarming. It's because of the following reason. Because root caries can progress rapidly compared to enamel and dentine caries. The reason behind is because the critical pH in the root, particularly in the cementum and the dentine, will be higher. So for the cementum, the critical pH is 6.4. For the dentine, the critical pH is 6.2. Comparing it to enamel, the critical pH in the enamel is 5.5. So sa enamel, you see this, the enamel will start to demineralize at a lower pH. So it does not get demineralized easily compared to the root. Root can start to develop dental caries at a higher pH. Okay, number 2. Root caries is often asymptomatic. Some of the patients, they have the root caries and still they don't know that they have it. Why is that so? It's because the root caries is often seen in aging population. So as you age, what happens to the dental pulp? The dental pulp becomes less sensitive. The size of the dental pulp becomes smaller, the pulp becomes less sensitive. So therefore, more often, root caries will be asymptomatic. They don't feel any sensitivity at all. And because of the thin roots, dental caries, when you develop it on the root, maliit pala yung dental caries, but the dental caries will be very close to the dental pulp. So it's closer to the dental pulp. And lastly, this is one kind of caries that is very difficult to restore. One of the issues when you do the restoration, diba? So because of the proximity of the root caries to the gingival sulcus, in the gingival sulcus, we produce sulcular fluid. So whether you like it or not, that would compromise the isolation. Particularly if you're using composite, diba? Mandatory is isolation from fluids. So isolation is very, very difficult in the root surface because of the gingival fluid that is present. Okay? Another one is when you use the composite to restore the root surface, composites, there is no good bonding to the root. There is always gap formation. May open margins always when you use composite for restoring root surface caries. That's why we recommend RMGI or glass ionomer-based restorations. Okay, do you have any questions regarding the susceptible tooth? Wala naman. Sige, now, another host factor is the saliva. What's with the saliva? The pH, the composition, the quality, and the quantity of the saliva. So, observe nyo, no? Surfaces of the teeth that are close to the opening of your ducts of the salivary gland. Like here, this is where the opening of the parotid gland will be, right? On the lingual surface naman of your mandibular teeth, this is where the openings of the submandibular and sublingual glands will be. So expect nyo, those teeth, they will be more protected against dental caries compared to those surfaces where less saliva will flow. Because in general, saliva is protective against dental caries. So now let's talk about the normal salivary flow. So in our saliva, we have two kinds of saliva, right? We have stimulated and unstimulated saliva. So the difference between stimulated and unstimulated saliva is the spelling. Am I right, Miss Castañeda? Tignan natin kung gising ha. Naku, talaga tong si Miss Castañeda. Sarah. Pagbigyan natin. Brian, gisingin mo yan ha. Brian.
Yes, Doc.
Akala ko, tulog din yung tagagising eh. Kasi sabi ni Sarah, hirap siya, alas 7 daw kasi. Anyway, joke ko lang yun. Pero gisingin mo na rin, Brian. Sige. So, the difference between simulated and simulated saliva, aside from the spelling, will be ayun. Hoy, andaling gisingin na Brian.
Dito.
O sige. Dino-joke lang kita. Okay, ginigising lang talaga kita. Okay, so the difference between simulated and the unstimulated saliva will be the flow rate, the composition, and the function. So let's see. Unstimulated and stimulated saliva. When you say stimulated saliva, this is the type of saliva that is produced in higher amounts. How much? We produce 1.5 to 2 ml per minute of stimulated saliva. And what triggers the formation of stimulated saliva? That is when you become stimulated in the presence of food or when you are actually chewing or tasting the food. O kayo, pag sinabi ko ngayon sa inyo, green mangoes with bagoong, what happens to your mouth? Diba? Your mouth becomes watery, diba? So that's because you produce stimulated saliva. So stimulated saliva, this is the type of saliva that you produce when you become stimulated by the sight or by thinking of food or by actually chewing or tasting the food. And then with the quality or the composition of stimulated saliva will be more watery and it has lower protein concentration. On function, stimulated saliva, this will help facilitate digestion. So that's why you produce this during chewing or during eating because stimulated saliva will help us during mastication, during digestion. Now, the opposite of that is unstimulated saliva. So, unstimulated saliva, this is the one that you continuously produce regardless of hour. So, you continuously produce this, and lower is the volume of unstimulated saliva. How much? Compared to stimulated, you see this, it's only 0.3 to 0.4 ml per minute. And the quality, it's thicker compared to the watery and simulated saliva. So it's more viscous, contains more proteins, particularly mucin. This is the protein that is commonly present in unstimulated saliva. And the main function of unstimulated saliva, we produce this to lubricate the oral cavity. Okay, to lubricate the oral cavity and for taste sensitivity. So you see the difference. Now, among the two, which is more protective against dental caries? More protective against dental caries is when you have watery and increased formation of saliva. So the more saliva that you have in the oral cavity and the more watery it gets, the more you'll be protected against dental caries. So now let's see how much do we produce saliva in a day. So in a day, we produce as much as 0.5, half a liter to 1.5 liters of saliva. Eh bakit hindi napupuno yung mouth natin with the saliva? It's because your saliva is constantly being swallowed. Without you knowing it, you are continuously swallowing your saliva. So ba naman, diba? If you don't swallow your saliva, no, it will keep on dripping or drooling. Okay? And then, whole unstimulated saliva, we produce 0.3 to 0.4 ml per minute, like what I mentioned earlier. Now, during sleeping, look at this. During sleeping, you produce very little amount of saliva. It's 0.1 ml per minute as you sleep. And this is the reason why we recommend brushing the teeth before going to bed. Because expect, if there will be some carcinogenic bacteria and carcinogenic food left behind during sleeping, it will be promoting the formation of dental caries because you tend to produce less saliva during sleep. So less protection against dental caries when you sleep. Pero alam niyo yun, di ba, nung kabataan natin, once in your life, you slept with the food inside your mouth. Ako, I can still remember there was one instance before, during my elementary days, I slept with my chewing gum. Tapos I cannot forget it because when I woke up, unknowingly I was chewing my chewing gum, no? Of course, I don't do that anymore. Okay. Now, during eating, you produce 4 ml per minute during eating. During chewing, 5 minutes. As you are chewing more fibrous foods, you produce 5 ml per minute. And when you're doing other stimulating activities, example, you're thinking of food, okay, 1.5 to 2 ml per minute. And then characteristic of the saliva. Saliva is always hypotonic to plasma. It contains lesser amount of electrolytes compared to the blood. As the whole saliva flow rate will increase, the tonicity of the saliva will increase also. And what will help us produce abundant amount of saliva is parasympathetic nervous system. So when the parasympathetic nerves becomes activated, you tend to produce more watery saliva. And sympathetic stimulation will produce viscous saliva. So during fight or flight response, you produce lesser amount of saliva which is more viscous. Okay? So dapat daw relax lang kayo everyday. Okay? Now, what are the different compositions of the saliva and the function? So saliva has many composition, and saliva has many benefits to the body. Listed here are the benefits to the body. But I will just be selecting the composition of the saliva that will make it protective against dental caries. So one is the flushing action, the protection. Saliva, because of the water component of the saliva, it provides flushing action. So whenever bacteria will be present in your mouth as well as the food debris, the clearance of substances in your oral cavity that is facilitated by the flushing action of your saliva. How does it happen? So example, when you're chewing or when you produce saliva, no? When you produce 1.1 ml of saliva inside your oral cavity, the moment that you have 1.1 ml of saliva into your oral cavity, swallowing reflex is triggered. And as you swallow, oral clearance of substances will be facilitated by the saliva. So therefore, bacteria, cariogenic bacteria as well as cariogenic foods will become cleared away from your oral cavity. And the flushing action of your saliva is even more during mastication or whenever there is oral stimulation by thinking of food or by chewing the food. So, what is our takeaway now? According to studies, no, if you want to eat or if you want to introduce cariogenic foods, kasi it's totally difficult to eliminate cariogenic foods in our diet, di ba? Eh, kahit na ako, no, if there's chocolate in front of me, I will start to eat the chocolates. Diba? It's very difficult to resist cariogenic food. So what they recommend is, recommend also to your patient, if they want to consume fermentable carbohydrates, better to give it during mealtime because the flushing action as you are chewing your other foods will facilitate oral clearance. So it will be more, it's better compared to when you consume the fermentable carbohydrates in between meals. Okay. Okay, another component of the saliva that is protective against dental caries will be the minerals. So the saliva, it is with calcium, phosphate, and fluoride. So these are the substances that will enhance. Number one, it enhances the post-eruption maturation of the teeth, therefore further mineralizing the teeth. Also, these substances, they will arrest incipient caries. So if your saliva is supersaturated with calcium, phosphate, and fluoride ions, it will naturally remineralize the demineralized tooth structures. And to add more, the saliva may contain statirin. Statirin is a protein that can stabilize the amount of calcium and phosphate ions in the saliva. So excessive deposition on the teeth will be prevented. So therefore, you have more calcium, phosphate, and fluoride ions in the saliva. Okay. Okay, another anti-cariogenic component of the saliva will be the buffering system. By the way, when you say buffering, this is the process by which the pH will be neutralized. Let's say, for example, in your body, if you have low pH, buffering means adjusting the pH so to make it a little bit increased. On the other hand naman, let's say, for example, if the pH is high in your body, the buffering system of the body will make the pH a little bit lower. So the adjustment of the pH to neutralize the pH to make it less acidic or less basic, that is buffering. So in the oral cavity, what do you want your oral cavity to be? O, choose kayo. Basic or acidic? What do you want your oral cavity to be?
Basic.
Basic, okay? Because if there is low pH, that is promotive of demineralization, dental caries formation. Now, in the oral cavity, from time to time, you produce the acid. But what is good about the saliva has buffering system that will adjust the pH of the acid to make it a little bit increased so that the critical pH level will be not reached. So what are the important buffering systems in the oral cavity? The most important is remember this, the bicarbonate. So the bicarbonate ions in the saliva, this is the primary substance for buffering of the pH. Okay. Other than that, also in the saliva, we have phosphate, other proteins, hyaline, urea. So they can also provide buffering in our oral cavity. But primarily, it's the bicarbonate. Again, that's in my midterm examination. Okay, now let's talk about the quantity of the saliva. Quantity of the saliva is also very important in caries formation. Okay, so when you produce less amount of saliva, there is dry mouth. Dry mouth, the condition is called xerostomia. So xerostomia, it occurs whenever there is change in the composition of the saliva or when you produce less saliva. Example, you consider a patient with xerostomia if the amount of simulated saliva that the patient produces is less than 0.7, 0.5 to 0.7 ml per minute. So anything lower than this, patient is considered to be xerostomic. Also, when the unstimulated saliva of a person is less than 0.1 ml per minute, so xerostomia, that's the condition. And then what causes xerostomia? Xerostomia, kadalasan, the reason is dehydration. So if you don't drink enough amount of water in a day, you're gonna have temporary xerostomia. Other than that, yung mga alcoholic. So, consumption of alcohol as well as tobacco smoking, this can significantly decrease the saliva. Another reason is there will be some medical conditions. Example, diabetes, uncontrolled diabetes, those people with depression, nerve damage to the salivary gland, mouth breathing, hypertensive patients, Sjogren syndrome. Sjogren syndrome, this is really with the characteristic xerostomia. Favorite sa mga board exam yan. So Sjogren syndrome, imagine always, when you hear the term Sjogren syndrome, the common oral manifestation is xerostomia. Okay? Now, even some viral infections like HIV or HCV. Okay? And then uncontrolled diabetes, like what I told you, Alzheimer's disease. So these are the common medical conditions that can result to xerostomia. And then some drugs. Some maintenance drugs can also cause xerostomia. Example, antihistamines for asthma. Antiemetics, those who are vomiting, di ba? Okay, antiviral drugs. Decongestants, even decongestants, di ba? When you have flu or colds, you drink decongestants. Yun, decongestants can also cause xerostomia. Okay. Some antihypertensive drugs, like beta blockers, appetite suppressant, yung mga nagda-diet, or even diuretic drugs. So these are the common medicines that can cause xerostomia as side effects. And radiation therapy to the head and the neck involving the salivary gland as well as chemotherapy for cancer, they can also cause xerostomia. Overall, a person with xerostomia, this would equate to caries formation. So always remember, whenever there is xerostomia, caries formation can happen. So far, do you have any question about the saliva and the role in caries formation? Wala naman. Wala. Sige. Okay, now let's talk about host immune response. This is kind of easy. I just want to show you, no, that can affect the susceptibility to dental caries. Why? It's because we know that the cardiogenic bacteria, the causative agent for dental caries, the colonization by the mouth, it's affected by the immune level of a person. So oral colonization of the mouth by cardiogenic bacteria, that is a factor, no, that involves the immune response of a person. So with the host immunity, there will be some inherited disorders affecting the immune system, no, that will reduce the susceptibility to dental caries. Take note of this, ha. Those people with hereditary fructose intolerance, they tend to avoid sweet food, so they don't develop dental caries. Those with primary immunodeficiency, because they're constantly given antibiotics. The antibiotics given to them kasi, di ba, that would kill the microorganism, that will suppress the growth of cardiogenic bacteria also. So because of the prolonged antibiotic therapy, when a person has primary immunodeficiency, the person will be more protected against dental caries. Same is true with those with chronic renal failure and congenital chloride diarrhea. These are two conditions that will increase the saliva pH. So because of the increase in the saliva pH, the mineralization does not happen quickly. And those people born with growth hormone deficiency, because of the delayed or retarded eruption of the teeth stays longer in the maxilla, the mandible before eruption. So therefore, post-eruptive maturation, mas calcified kasi yung teeth nila, no? So therefore, they are more protected against dental caries. Okay? And Down syndrome. Okay, those people with Down syndrome, their dentition, you would observe there is interdental spacing, even in the permanent dentition. So because of this delayed eruption and interdental spacing, they are protected against dental caries. They suffer less dental caries. That is also true with Turner syndrome. So these are examples of condition that would result to less caries formation. So the opposite naman, there will be inherited disorders that will increase the susceptibility to dental caries. Example is a person with epidermolysis bullosa or EB. So because of hypoplasia involving the enamel, increase is the caries formation. Same is true with Rapp-Hodgkin ectodermal dysplasia. So because of hypoplasia associated with Rapp-Hodgkin ectodermal dysplasia, you're gonna see more dental caries. Okay? Ganun din sa focal dermal hypoplasia. And then Rubenstein-Tabby syndrome because of small mouth. And there will be crowding of the teeth. And because of the mental retardation, the ability to cleanse the teeth will be limited. So therefore, they have more dental caries. And with Klinefelter syndrome, because of hypoplasia, they are more susceptible to develop dental caries. So these are examples of inherited disorders that will increase the susceptibility to dental caries. And now, about the nutrition, pahapiaw lang because next week we're going to have extensive discussion about the role of diet in dental caries. But at this point, no, host factor. You know what? Some people, ako din di ako aware with this one eh. Some people, they are born with problems in metabolizing the fructose. And that's what we call hereditary fructose intolerance. So these people, when they eat foods containing fructose, example, di ba, sucrose is sugar. Sucrose is composed of glucose and fructose, right? It's the disaccharide of glucose and fructose. So because of the presence of the fructose, whenever they eat sugared foods, the blood glucose level will fail to the point that they will have pallor, vomiting, sweating, or it can even lead to comatose. So because they feel sick, whenever they eat sweet foods, they develop strong aversion to sweet foods. So because they avoid sweet foods, they are usually caries free. Okay? Yan. And then, di ba you heard about some people saying they have sweet tooth? Di ba? They love sweet foods daw. Actually, it's kind of true because based on our preference, some people, they are considered to be super tasters. Some of us are medium or some of us are non-tasters. So this is the tongue of a non-taster person. You see the tongue? The tongue of a non-taster person, you're gonna see less is the fungiform papillae. And the taste buds, the amount of taste buds will also be decreased compared to the super tasters. Super tasters would have more fungiform papillae and they have more taste buds. So non-tasters, they are not able to perceive sweet or bitter taste in the same amount as super tasters. So therefore, they tend to eat more sweet foods. Hindi sila madaling maumay kasi when it comes to sweet foods or bitter taste. So they tend to consume more sweet foods. And I guess this is the reason why some people, they would say they have sweet tooth. Okay, so it's in their genes. So non-tasters would experience more dental caries because they tend to eat more sweet foods. Okay. Any questions? And then host behavior, attitude, and attributes. You know what? There will be some attributes of a person that will make a person more susceptible to dental caries. Ito, age. So, in our lifetime, we are at higher risk to develop dental caries when we are still very young or very old or during adolescence. Okay, and then fluoride exposure. A person who has no history of fluoride intake in the water will be more susceptible to dental caries. And then we clarified smoking and alcoholism will increase the risk to develop dental caries. And you develop more dental caries the more you consume alcohol and the more you smoke cigarette. And people with chronic illnesses, example, may cancer, okay, or those people with special needs, because decreases their ability to cleanse the teeth. Therefore, they're more prone to develop dental caries. And medications. So we talk about some medications causing xerostomia, right? So these are the factors that will increase the susceptibility of the person to dental caries. And to add more, those people who look so sick, obese, or malnourished, expect they have more dental caries. And those with mental or physical disability, because of their inability or they're not so willing to do oral hygiene procedures, more prone to develop dental caries. And those people who have dry, red, glossy mucosa, by the way, in a person, when you do clinical examination on a patient and then you notice there is dry, red, glossy mucosa, so these are indications of xerostomia. So when you see a person having this, that means a person will be more prone to develop dental caries because these are features of xerostomia. Then a person with active caries lesion, because of the active caries lesion, because of the roughness of the active caries lesion, and because of the microorganisms present here, it will make a person prone to develop dental caries. And then high plaque score. Do we need to further explain this? Syempre, the more plaque, the more cardiogenic bacteria, right? And then for the gingiva, puffy, swollen, and inflamed gingiva that easily bleeds. This is also an indication that a person will be at a higher risk to develop dental caries, because when you see a gingiva like this, that means a person has gingivitis. And what's the cause of gingivitis? Plaque. So the presence of plaque will make a person at a higher risk to develop dental caries. And lastly, failing, large restorations. That will be a shelter for cardiogenic bacteria. So large numbers of existing restoration with poor quality, marami recurrent caries, that is also an indication for increased caries activity. So again, remember this, in your lifetime, there will be 3 peaks for the development of dental caries. When you're very young, 4 to 8 years old, this is the age more susceptible to dental caries. Or when you're adolescents, 11 to 19 years old, buti na lang safe na kayo, no? Oh, mark yourself safe now for dental caries. And then 55 to 65 years old. So these are the 3 periods in your lifetime wherein you are more susceptible to develop dental caries. Okay? And then, you know what? Females will be more susceptible to dental caries compared to males. Why is that so? Unfair naman. Kasi nga daw, earlier is the eruption of teeth in females, so therefore post-eruptive maturation is not yet achieved. Also, the morphological difference in our teeth. Also, girls, we tend to eat more sweet foods compared to males. Okay? And because of the hormonal changes that happens during puberty, that will make females more susceptible to dental caries compared to males. However, root caries is more common among male older people. Yan. And then the socioeconomic status, your educational level, occupation, and income, these are the 3 determinants of your socioeconomic status. So what's the relationship? A person of higher socioeconomic status will be at a lower risk to develop dental caries compared to those suffering from poverty, low level of educational attainment, low income. Okay, now lastly, malapit na tayo matapos, genetics. Nowadays, we know the role of genes in the formation of dental caries. Bakit? Because it's in your genes that will determine the quality of your enamel. The anatomy of your enamel, the presence of pits and fissure, it's in your genes. Okay, also the quality, how hard will be your enamel and dentin, that is also partly determined by the genes. And then, the salivary properties also, the formation of your salivary glands, it will also be in your genes. And your response, your immune response, is also determined by your genes, as well as the oral microbiota, the composition of your oral cavity, that is also controlled by our genes. And your taste preference, whether you're super taster, non-taster, that is also in your genes. The way you metabolize your sugars, your consumption, that is also in your human genes. So overall, human genes together with environmental factors like your consumption of sugars, the fluoride exposure, the genes as well as environmental factors, these are the determinants of the formation of dental caries. Okay, so genetic differences and environmental factors. Again, these are the important factors that will determine the caries susceptibility of a person. This one, I just want to show you. You don't need to memorize this. Kung sa ilang oras yung na memorize, wala naman talaga sa exam. It's just that I gathered some proof, no? These are studies wherein they notice the genes can influence the caries susceptibility of a person. Like, there will be some genes like TOFT1, NAMPT, BMP7. These are the genes involved in enamel matrix and tooth development. And the NAMPT gene and BMP7 gene, this is the genes associated when during the development of the teeth affected is the development. Now, it can lead to dental caries formation in Latin communities in research. Okay? And childhood caries is observed on those people with intergenic locus on chromosome 4q23. And genes COR, BCORL1, INHBA, CXCR1 and 2, they're associated with caries in permanent dentition. Pero you don't need to memorize. I just want to show you that genes or our genetics really influence the susceptibility to dental caries. So napansin niyo pala, no, there are many factors that would determine our susceptibility to dental caries. So that's the reason why some people are more prone to develop dental caries compared to others. Huwag na kayo mainggit. In some people, even they consume fermentable carbohydrates, diba, they develop less dental caries. It's because of the different host factors. So, naintindihan nyo ba our discussion? And what I like more about cariology, no, we understand dental caries more so that we can explain further to our patients and we can even apply it to ourselves and to our families. Okay? So, if you don't have any question, gusto niyo ba ng additional 10 points na? Sige. Castañeda, gusto mo additional 10 points? Pili kayo, midterms or prelims?
Gusto po.
Ay, parang walang energy. Parang ayaw. Sige, 5 points na lang. Okay, perfect. So, because of that, okay, this is what you're going to do. Sige, ginigising ko lang sila, Sarah, kaya ginagamit kita. Alam ko namang, di ba, no? With you, gising na gising yung mga tao, no? Because it's very early talaga, 7 o'clock. But we are able to conduct our lessons even if it's early. So, this is what you're going to do. Would you please help me? Kasi before, the turnover rate or the turn-in rate is very, very low. Mali pala ako nasabi doon. So, before, we are really compelled to become evaluated by our students. Walang sumasagot, panay ako napapatawag na, pati ibang mga faculty. So, can you help us by evaluating us? I'll give you, lahat na lang kayo, pero please answer ha. Makikita naman sa section ko ilan yung nag-answer, no? So, if the turnover rate is very good, then I'll give you additional 10 points. Promise yan. I'll show you after the midterm examination. Midterms na lang. Additional 10 points. So, go to your Canvas. You can find the evaluation. Unahin nyo na lang muna ako in the subject. Uy, grabe naman si Castañeda. Bakit may ganyang emoticon? Ano ibig sabihin? Castañeda?
Namali ng pindot, Doc. Sorry.
Ay, alam na this. Okay. Now, what you're going to do, yes, open the evaluation. Ako muna, no, so that we can log out. After this, you're gonna log out. And then I'll give you the PowerPoint of this lecture and the previews because it's not in your Canvas pala. Absuelto muna kayo sa quiz today. Highest is 5, lowest is 1. Huwag yung pagbalik na rin, please. Okay? So, you can do it now. And then, log out if you don't have any questions or concerns. And I'm checking your attendance pala. So, as I'm checking your attendance, would you please say present if you're here? By the way, teka. Alejandria?
Present po.
Apasionado?
Present po.
Sofia Beltran?
Present po.
Branya, maaga to si Branya kanina.
Present po.
Okay, Lusong?